The view from this poplar tree is very scenic. We've been coming up here in order to harvest poplar branches for the beavers. In the field below, tree swallows can still be seen on occasion. Tree swallows are one of the first birds to migrate south for the winter. Most of them are gone, and there was a stretch of time where we didn't see any here at the sanctuary. But this last week we have seen a few. Like the tree swallow, the cedar waxwings are mostly insectivorous during the summer months. However, these guys seem to be becoming more abundant as the tree swallows have left. The beavers have seemed to focus all their energy on raising the water level in Sarah's pond. In the process, water levels have gone down in the other ponds, such as Morton's pond shown here. This week, I was able to walk out to some of these islands that were previously inaccessible. Many of the birds, such as this song sparrow, have appreciated the increase of exposed mud. The great blue herons are one of our most majestic birds. Their adept adaptability enables their expansive range. They can be found throughout North America, from coastal marshes to desert rivers. From as far north as Alaska, all the way down to Central and South America, on Caribbean islands, and even in the Galapagos. Great blue herons stand at about 4 feet tall, but only weigh 5 to 6 pounds. This goes to show how efficient a bird's anatomy is at reducing its weight. Everything about a heron seems to indicate slow and deliberate movement, from its wing beats and flights to its steps as it's wading through a shallow pond. But don't let that fool you. They can strike with lightning speed. Even if it takes hours for the perfect moment to arrive. The vegetation around the rim of the pond is home to many interesting moths. And painted lady butterflies can be seen laying their eggs in the beaver meadow on pearly everlasting flowers. And alder flycatchers can be heard singing here in the meadow. And occasionally, the remnants of their meal can be found. The meadow around the man-made pond is certainly an interesting place to be right now. One of the oxeye sunflowers is loaded with aphids. And with the aphids come the ants to protect them by chasing off potential predators such as this lightning bug. And the meadow is loaded with a great diversity of flowers. The dominating bergamot and black-eyed Susans mixed with mountain mint, echinacea, and bunch grass makes this a great place to see pollinators. It is not uncommon to see fritillaries frantically flying through the meadow, or to catch a quick glimpse at the hummingbird moth. There seems to be a second emergence of pearl crescents, and the bergamot is loaded with silver-spotted skippers. These are perhaps the most recognizable of the skipper butterflies, and their range spans the entire continental United States. But these pollinators need to be wary because their presence is sure to attract predators. The swamp has become one of my favorite places on the sanctuary. It holds a vast array of unique species of trees, shrubs, flowers, and ferns. For example, this is one of only 2 places where royal fern is found, and the only place in which marsh fern is found. And just this week, we found a new species of fern that we have never seen before. I'm having trouble identifying it right now. I'll have to go back next week and examine it closer. In the swamp, and the field adjacent to the swamp, pond hawks seem to be very abundant. There is water for them to lay their eggs, as well as plenty of insect life for them to hunt. The occasional calico pennant can also be seen here. One of the grassland birds that makes an occasional visit here is the savanna sparrow. They spend most of their time close to the ground where they forage for seeds and the occasional insect. The yellow facial markings is a key distinguishing feature for this sparrow. They can be found throughout much of North America, but are named for Savannah, Georgia, because this is where some of the earliest specimens were found. Most of the grasses around the sanctuary are largely unknown to us. At some point, I would like to delve into this area of study. There are, however, a few I recognize, such as this velvet grass, and Timothy, and sandbur, and bluegrass, and alfalfa, which I'm sure a lot of people recognize, especially if they've had pet rabbits. And in the milkweed amongst the grass, milkweed bugs are still found, as well as milkweed beetles. When insects eat the toxic milkweed, they themselves become toxic. Their striking red coloration probably advertises their toxicity to would-be predators. This field is also one of the best places on the sanctuary to find butterflies such as the black swallowtail. However, they'll have to go to some of our other fields with Queen Anne's lace in order to lay their eggs. And that buzz in the background are cicadas. The differential grasshopper seems to be fairly common in this field. And katydids are also common in this field. The gardens are still flourishing. There are Carolina locusts in the road leading out to the garden. But the real treat is the garden itself. It's quite mesmerizing. Every direction you look, up, down, left, right, there's something to be seen. Everything, big and small, has its own array of colors popping out. But we're not the only ones who appreciate it. The insects especially do. These creepy crawly critters are quite common and easy to overlook, but nonetheless, still are fascinating. Colloquially, they're often referred to as daddy longlegs. However, scientific literature refers to them as Opie liones, and field guides typically refer to them as harvestmen. There are currently over 6,500 species recognized worldwide. The oldest fossils found are 400 million years old. And surprisingly, their body design has changed very little. Notice how the second pair of legs is longer and used as a sensory apparatus to explore their environment. And if you look at the base of the legs, you may see the spiracles, the tubes in which they use to breathe through. Superficially, harvestmen may resemble spiders, but upon examination, one can find that there is very little in common between the two. The body segments of harvestmen are fused together, unlike that of spiders, which have a distinct head and abdomen. Furthermore, harvestmen have no silk glands and therefore do not spin webs. Spiders have multiple sets of eyes, and harvestmen just have one pair. Contrary to the urban legend, harvestmen pose no threat to humans. In fact, they do not even possess venom. They are unique amongst the arachnids in that they can take solid food bites rather than having to slurp up a liquid. Also, many are omnivorous, eating not just insects, but also fungus and decaying plant matter, and others will even scavenge on dead animals or bird droppings. The females of some species will build nests to lay their eggs in. However, it is typically the male who protects the eggs from other egg-eating females. For being such a common animal, there is relatively little research done on them even unto this day. After the past couple of weeks of watching more and more mushrooms sprout up, I decided to try and look them up. I found this patch of mushrooms interesting because it seems to be growing in a ring. I believe they are chanterelles, edible and very tasty, although I don't recommend anybody eat them unless they are absolutely sure of what they are. This one is a fly agaric, named because people used to mix it with milk to poison flies. This is a bolete of some sort, I believe a violet gray bolete. And here is a variable bolete. And if my identification is correct, this is another edible and very tasty mushroom. This is the white pine bolete, also known as the chicken fat suelis. And this is Indian pipe. It is actually a plant, but it does not photosynthesize. It gets its energy from parasitizing tree roots. And that wraps up another exciting week at Spring Farm Care's Nature Sanctuary.